Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's University Safety Briefing. I'm John Denker, Interim Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing and Communications Officer. Today, Dr. Robert C. Robbins, President of the University of Arizona, is going to provide important information on the university's safety initiatives and response to the recommendations of the PAX Group report released in March. President Robbins is joined by Dr. Richard Carmona, 17th Surgeon General of the United States and Laureate Professor of Public Health at the University of Arizona, and Steve Patterson, Interim Chief Safety Officer for the university. We will answer questions submitted online by our university community and then take media questions at the end of the briefing. Media attendees, if you would like to ask a question, you may do so in one of two ways. You may click on the raise hand feature located at the bottom of your screen. We will enable your microphone and you will be able to ask your questions directly to the panelists. Or you may also enter your questions in the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen, and we will ask the question to our panelists on your behalf. Over to you, President Robbins.
Good morning. Thank you, John. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in. First, I'd like to thank everyone that I've met with over the past couple of weeks, the hours that I've spent discussing the incredibly powerful work that was done by the Faculty Safety Committee on Safety for All and discussing the PAX report. So today is the start of a series of briefings where we will update you on the changes that have been made in the campus as we all learn from our past experiences to come together to try to make the campus safer. I'd also like to thank my fellow panelists, Dr. Richard Carmona and Steve Patterson, for their work and for taking part in these briefings, which we will plan to do every 2 weeks or as needed when we have updates to give you. Dr. Carmona, as many of you know, provided incredibly valuable expertise and a wealth of experience during the COVID-19 pandemic, as he and I held similar briefings starting back in 2020. In addition to his career as a surgeon and in public health, Dr. Carmona has an extensive background in public safety-related areas. Steve Patterson advises the university on safety and security initiatives and, as John said, has accepted the role as Interim Chief Safety Officer in advance of a national search. Rich and Steve, would you like to introduce yourselves, please?
Go ahead, Steve.
Good morning. Dr. Robbins, University of Arizona, I'd first like to thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to let everybody know that, as a native Tucsonan, this university is a very special place to me and my family. I look forward to working with everyone to strive to make University of Arizona a safer and better place. Thank you.
Richard Carmona, I think many of you know me. I've been a faculty member here for almost 38 years as a professor in several departments and was one of the persons who started the first trauma and emergency medical system here. So it's my privilege to be able to help the president to work through many of these complex issues that are not only facing us, but facing most universities in the United States today.
Thank you, Steve and Rich. So now I'd like to share some important updates and then we'll go to questions. Following receipt of the PAX report, we began focused intently on how to implement the 33 recommendations that the PAX report provided us, as well as to address any related actions that may be necessary to enhance safety and security for our university community. An important first step was the creation of the position of Chief Safety Officer, reporting directly to me, which Steve Patterson has agreed to take on in an interim capacity, as we've discussed. I announced to the university community that I had made the decision to move the University of Arizona Police Department from its current reporting structure within business affairs to the new Chief Safety Officer. This move, effective May 1st, best aligns with our safety and security objectives and will enable specialized support for UAPD. As I told our UAPD colleagues, I am confident this change will result in an enhanced safety for our community, which is our overarching primary goal. The new reporting structure will both elevate safety operations within the university and enable us to better coordinate and streamline our communications and responses. Because community safety extends well beyond campus units and organizational structures, we're establishing a new Safety Advisory Commission comprised of community members and campus representatives, including faculty, who are served on the General Faculty Committee on University Safety for All. The commission will report directly, the commission will directly advise Steve Patterson as he oversees implementation of the PAX report and other recommendations. I also would like to note that we're continuing to engage with the PAX Group as they have committed to help us with the development of a campus-wide master facility safety plan. We're activating the Incident Command System, or ICS, to facilitate nimble, effective operations for this important work. This proven internal operating structure more than provided its worth throughout the pandemic, as the university was able to navigate the difficulties and complexities presented by COVID-19. Our ICS, involving representatives from across the university who serve specific roles, was pressure tested and refined throughout the pandemic and remains in place to address emergent challenges and needs as necessary. In concert with Steve Patterson and senior leadership, the ICS team will now be on point to address and track our progress in implementing the PAX reports, recommendation, and any other safety-related items deemed necessary. ICS is currently developing timelines to address the PAX findings and the Faculty Senate Committee's input regarding the following: physical environmental changes, university crisis response, communication, other University of Arizona campuses, governance, administrative policies, and contracts, University of Arizona Police Department, Threat Assessment Management Team. Our Threat Assessment Management Team, or TAMP, was among the subjects addressed by the PAX Group report, and it demands more focused attention and bolstering. The TAMP will have direct input into an ongoing connection with the Incident Command System via the Chief Safety Officer. In recent weeks, several actions have been taken for TAMP, including establishing a charter, conducting a multi-day threat assessment training for TAMP members, and the creation of an assessment process with Dr. Gene Dysinger to effectively intake, review, and mitigate incoming threats. Work also is ongoing for a new case management system to improve tracking and referrals. There are also a number of physical enhancements we're undertaking, along with new programming and information. I will share just a few. Locks are being installed on all centrally and non-centrally scheduled classroom doors, with a target completion date of August 13th, before the start of the fall semester. Instructions and other emergency guidance will be posted in all classrooms. Exterior keyless access will be funded and completed on 28 remaining buildings as soon as possible, allowing campus to be locked down within 1 minute from a central location. Duress buttons are being installed in several high-traffic areas within colleges and student areas. AEDs and stop-the-bleed kits will be installed in all campus buildings. While making changes for the future, we must never forget those directly impacted by the October 5th tragedy and the loss of Dr. Tom Meixner. In that regard, I would like to share a few updates. The College of Science and the College of Engineering are funding counseling and psychiatric services, CAPS, copays for graduate and undergraduate students in the Department of Hydrology and Atmospheric Sciences and engineering departments in the Harshberger building through December 2023. Additional support is being provided through the Student Emergency Fund administered by the Dean of Students Office. Multiple case management services are being offered to impacted hydrology and atmospheric science and engineering employees. Counseling and Psychology Services already provides case management services to students. Case management providers include those with expertise offering services to those who've experienced trauma or crisis, and we have contracted with a victims advocate to provide services to the university employees. We're also contracting with an experienced victim services professional to provide training on how to support individuals who have experienced trauma or crisis. We also are continuing to focus on improved communication. This includes these briefings, the work with TAMP, and as I mentioned earlier, 2 near-term forums to discuss campus safety, one for students in coordination with our student government organizations, and one for staff in coordination with the University Staff Council. In addition, I've met with the Faculty Senate to provide updates, and I've met with individual senators in small group one-on-one meetings. Across all of these meetings, one thing is clear. Our faculty want to make this university better and are eager to roll up their sleeves to drive important improvement together. I know the same is true for many of our staff and many supporters in the community as well as our students, and I'm eager to continue this work. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you some highlights of updates. And at this point, I think I would ask Steve and Rich if they have any opening comments, John, before we go to the questions.
Go ahead, Steve.
I look forward to the opportunity. We have a lot of work to do here. I've been meeting myself with a number of different faculty, staff, and as we can create the commission, the overarching theme is, a commitment to the institution, building trust, and making sure everybody feels safer. And those are the things that we're striving to do. These conferences, these meetings are just part of that. And you will continue to see updates in the coming weeks as some of this work that we are doing. Rich?
Thanks, Steve. And like Steve, it truly is a privilege for me to do this because this is not just a job for me. Half of my life has been spent at the University of Arizona. My children have graduated from here, and my grandchildren want to go to the University of Arizona and be Wildcats. So I have a personal journey I'm on too, to ensure, just like all of our faculty and staff, that this is a safe place, that once again, our universities can be safe havens in a world that is, falling apart today because of all of the violence that we're seeing. These are tough problems. And I am convinced in my life of being a first responder over half a century that bringing Steve in and the leadership of Bobby Robbins and the faculty are totally committed to be able to optimize everything we possibly can to ensure that this campus is going to be safe and maybe the safest. There's no barriers that have been presented to us. President Robbins has said, give me every bit of information that you have, no matter what it costs or what it is, to make sure that our university is safe. And we will work hard to do that.
Yeah, I would just offer that in the many hours I've spent talking to faculty, staff, and students, many of whom were witnesses to this tragedy, I know you're feeling great pain, trauma, and I just want you to know that we're all going to come together as a community to support you, to help you, to learn from our past experiences and come together so that we can work together on specific plans to make the campus safer. These plans are evolving. It's part of why we need to do these updates and get to this important work. But we need everyone, students, staff, faculty. I've learned so much. There's so many good ideas. No group, no central incident command. We found out in the pandemic, the ICS is a good centralizing function, but we were incredibly fortunate to have volunteers from all over the university, the community in Southern Arizona, come together with pharmacists, nurses, public health providers, physicians, policymakers to help us fight the pandemic. we're going to need all of that expertise, especially the faculty's expertise around issues around privacy, the law, technology that can be used to help track threats and assess threats, and communication and plans. The only way I would encourage people to go to the video training, active shooting training. That is a very, very good first start. However, that's just the film room, classroom work. We've all got to practice that in our units, in our departments, and then university-wide. We're going to be having sessions for active shooter training and all hazards. As Rich reminded me, ICS is particularly suited to handle all hazards, whether it be an explosion, mass casualties, or a pandemic. So I very much look forward to working with everyone who I know deeply loves this university and wants to make it safer. So, John, I think we should probably go to questions.
Sounds great. Thank you, President Robbins. Before we get to media questions, when we sent the PAX report out in March, we asked the community to send us their questions and their feedback. So we'll take a few of those questions here to begin with. The first one, Dr. Robbins, is: have campuses and locations other than the main campus in Tucson been assessed for safety and ways to protect members of those communities?
Yeah, I know that we're actively looking, as I said in my opening remarks, at other sites, whether they are our cooperative extension centers across all the state of Arizona, our Phoenix campus, our Sierra Vista campus, Yuma, all places where there are university employees, students. We're looking at having all of the things that we're developing be transmitted across all of our campuses. And I don't know, Steve, if you've got other comments about specifics of how the plan and the PAX report is being disseminated to all of our sites.
Yes, I've met with a handful of folks in Phoenix at the main downtown campus, as well as Gilbert and Chandler. Discussed their concerns, areas where we can work on, physical updates, training opportunities. They are listed items in our ICS report. Although my initial focus has certainly been the main campus, I will be spending time going to Yuma, Sierra Vista, all the locations in which Arizona has a footprint. University of Arizona has a footprint. I will be there, see what the concerns are. If there's any physical updates that need to be done, we'll work through ICS and we'll see to it that we get them accomplished.
Excellent. Second question from that feedback is: are clinical locations being assessed? There's a lack of security at the hospital in Tucson, and trainees and staff feel unsafe.
Yeah, I know that we're having discussions with our clinical partner, Banner Health, around how we can improve safety in the hospitals and clinical sites that our students go to. I've personally been involved with 2 shootings and been witness to them, and even provided care to some of the victims during my training. And when I was at Texas Medical Center, we focused an institute on preparedness across the whole Texas Medical Center for hospital mass shootings. I think there's an opportunity for us here, with the incredible intellect and knowledge and experience that our faculty has, to be able to bring them together to help plan and organize and optimize our responses and make the campus safety, including in our clinical sites. So I know that there are discussions with Banner about improving the safety and security for our clinical trainees, whether they be in the medical school, nursing school, pharmacy, or public health schools.
Thank you for that. And the last one here: Threats need to be investigated without delays. How do individuals know what constitutes a threat and know where to go for help? How do we know reports will be taken seriously and treated with respect?
Yeah, I think that this is really an important issue. Obviously, the TAMP team has a website that can be utilized, and I'll let Steve comment more on this. But I think the appropriate first thing would be to contact the supervisor of the unit you're in, either the department head or dean of the college, and then working in concert with those individuals to report to TAMP any kind of suspicious or threatening activities. And I think that, I'll turn it over to Steve now, but I think any and all, it's always better to be safe. And so any reports that come in will be taken seriously and acted upon. And I don't know the process, Steve, about how you establish communication with the reporter, but if you feel threatened or you feel unsafe, TAMP is a place you can go, but also your departmental leadership or your unit leadership is also a place that you should turn to first.
First, I would say if you go to tamt.arizona, you will see the TAMP website, and within that website, there's a link to a recording that Dr. Gene Dysinger and I did. That's the same as the presentation that Dr. Dysinger did back in February of this year. It's a slide presentation while he talks, and there are a number of areas where he discusses and some potential indicators there. So my first thing I would do is I would recommend everybody watch that video. You can pause the video at any point in time and look at different things and different topics and even different additional readings that you can look at. Also within the TAMP website, if you were to scroll down a little bit, there's an inquiry section, or excuse me, report an incident section. You click on that, you provide your information, generally what has happened, what you've seen that has caused you concern. That inquiry will immediately be forwarded to me. I take a look at all of those, do an initial review. Oftentimes there'll be some missing information where I will return a phone call to the reporting party, get clarification. It's something that the TAMP team needs to take action on. We immediately contact TAMP, start the process going. Also, within that TAMP site, and when you hit the inquiry, there's some additional information there on the site where you can look at campus health, CAPS. There's other resources also out there. If maybe you have some concerns, maybe it doesn't reach the level of a threat, but maybe you would like to talk to some more people about any personal issues or any issues that maybe you're aware of. There's some forums out there to make that happen. However, I can assure you, any inquiry referral that is completed within the TAMP site there goes to me, and I look at all of them. And my goal is I will reach back to everybody. Sometimes it's via email, but I try every time to make a phone call.
All right. Thank you both. We'll move into taking media questions now. The first one we have is from Kay Gunn. They should be allowed to be able to ask their question here now as they've been unmuted. Go ahead, Kay Gunn. Please state your name.
Hi, this is Craig Smith from Kay Gunn. With all the calls for openness and better communication we heard since the shooting, we just had some sort of unspecified incident at the law school this week where information flow was very hard to get, both for folks within the university community and people in our position. Why was that? Was that not an opportunity to demonstrate the openness that's been so discussed?
Yeah, Craig, thanks for your question, and welcome back to these briefings. Yeah, the law school, with all of these situations, they're all unique, and there was immediate. I think Steve Patterson was over at the law school by Monday afternoon when we first heard about this, and the law school, out of an abundance of caution, after there was an assessment of a potential threat, decided to cancel classes in the afternoon and go to online classes for the next 2 days. It was determined that there was not an active threat, and therefore the law school sent out a communication, and the provost sent something out to the deans acknowledging what was going on. The other thing is that we had discussions directly, because Eller is right by the law school. So we walked them through discussions about if there was a threat to Eller, because they were in the area of the law school. And we let everyone know that there was no ongoing threat and that classes should go forward. I don't know, Steve, if you got other details about it, because you were directly involved immediately.
Thank you, Dr. Robbins. Whenever we have a situation like that, mentioned abundance of caution, the initial response is we want to make sure we get as much information as possible. And then follow on to that, and Craig, you hit on it, is people want to know what's going on. And we're trying to make sure that the information we provide out is as accurate as we have at the time. And again, we're going to make sure that we do what we can to ensure people's safety. The information flow, although not maybe as fast as some people would have liked, we wanted to make sure that it was accurate based off the information we had. We were able to put that information out. The law school put the information out to the law students, faculty, and staff. And then follow on to that, we pushed information out to the rest of the university through the provost office. It's very difficult sometimes. What you don't want to do, and Craig, I think you'd understand this, is push out information that you don't have enough information to really make a good decision, and you push out information that maybe is not true, or is not as accurate as it could be. So that's where the delay was. We certainly are trying to get our information flow faster, but at the same time, we're always going to err on the side of caution and ensuring our community is safe.
Greg, nice to have you back again, as Dr. Robbins said. I just add, we're fortunate to have Steve on the team now, because he knows probably better than most in his previous job that there is so much misinformation, disinformation, and people call for their own benefit to try and create disruption. The first thing that has to be ascertained is the veracity of the complaint. What is the threat that was made? And then the appropriate action is taken. And the good news is there's a very solid mechanism in place now to rapidly go through that. But as Steve said, it takes a little time to make some calls, do a little background investigation, and be able to determine what the threat is and what needs to be done. But the infrastructure is there right now under Steve's leadership to do this as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I just add, I've heard a lot from the community, and I think earlier, frequent communications are better. Even if we just say, there's an issue at a certain site on campus, we know about it, we're looking into it, and we'll keep you updated. I think over communicating is not a bad thing. I think we need to do a better job of communicating early and often.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Paula Rodriguez with Arizona Public Media, and her questions are for President Robbins and/or Steve Patterson. Last month, the Faculty Senate passed a no confidence vote in UA admin in regard to UA's security response. In their letter, they called on UA to implement progress towards a comprehensive threat assessment model with Faculty Senate oversight. Have you all made strides to addressing the request for Faculty Senate oversight over this request, and how?
Yeah, I think that I reported to the Faculty Senate recently and gave a similar update to what we're giving today. And I look forward to working in partnership with the Faculty Senate and shared governance bodies across campus as we together go forward in partnership to develop out the security plan, the framework of which is the PAX report and the Faculty Senate Safety for All report. And we need to have faculty, staff, and students, and there have been a lot of people who've come forward saying, I want to be part of the process to help make the campus safer. And so if you think back to the pandemic, we had an incredible group of faculty members who were world experts in public health who worked with ICS and me and Dr. Carmona as we thought about all of the, even early on in the pandemic, before there was even vaccine or any real hope of a vaccine. There was a group of basic scientists who were immunologists, virologists, and we would meet in the early days twice a week to discuss, how we could make swabs, how we could develop tests, and how we could deliver it out to our university community to try to make it safer. We're going to need that help from our faculty in particular because of their broad, incredibly deep expertise in many of these areas, including privacy, First Amendment rights, optimization of physical structures, and communication. I mean, we've got incredible schools of journalism and communication schools and business school that we need to draw on all this expertise, and we cannot do it without all the faculty, staff, and students working together as a team to make the campus safer.
One thing I would add would be, with this commission, this is going to be more opportunities to have those discussions and identify areas where, with all the collective work that's going on within the university and where we can use that to help with this process. I would add that even this morning, through the interactions that we've had, I received an email from a member of faculty providing 2 or 3 different very productive suggestions on things we should look at. And we're looking at that now and going to put that into the ICS system. So I think the process is slowly getting working. It's a little bit different, obviously, than the COVID situation, but you look at the collective knowledge within this university. There's a lot of assets that we can use to make this campus safer.
Right. If I might add then to what Dr. Robbins and what Steve just said, when you think back to the end of 19 and the beginning of 2020, and we were faced with a once-in-a-lifetime threat, an all-hazards threat to the university, and the President's direction was clear to all of us. I want to keep my university open safely. Tell me how to do that safely. And the answers came from just about every faculty member, every governance group who was participating. And although the ICS is given credit, the real truth was all we were a convening body for all of the great minds on the campus to solve a complex problem that maybe you're going to face once in a lifetime. And think about what we were able to accomplish. We, the University of Arizona, with engineers, virologists, psychologists, just about every subject matter expert on the campus we tapped into. And because of that, we were able to keep our university open safely and continue activities. Sure, we had to attenuate some things and do some distance learning for a while when there was a peak in cases, but think about what we accomplished. It's extraordinary. And all the president is doing now is saying, okay, we did it for COVID. Let's do it for this. Let's amass this crowdsourced information from all of our faculty and assimilate it every single day. We give the president a report on a regular basis, and he gets to make the best decisions then based on everybody's collective input. That's the best use of the collective wisdom of this university. Crowdsource it every single day to the point where you'll get tired of hearing from us, because we're going to probe every single day to figure out the best way to solve these problems and give the president the best information so he can make the best decisions.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Paulo Rodriguez, again from Arizona Public Media. The university has a history of deadly on-campus shootings due to targeted threats from students to faculty. Some of the recommendations from the report address violence in general. As UA moves forward in addressing the PAX Group's recommendations, how do you all plan to specifically fix targeted threats, since they are different than mass shootings?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. In both of the nursing shooting almost 20 years ago, or over 20 years ago now, and Tom Meixner's killing, in both of those cases, there were threats, ongoing threats that were being assessed, and as opposed to, say, the Michigan State shooting, where there was no relationship with the shooter to the campus. We have to be prepared for all of these possibilities. But I think in the case of where we have specific knowledge and threats inside the university between individuals in the university community, it could be students with each other, it could be staff and faculty. There's anybody that could have a threat, and I think that's why it's so important to let people know, if you feel threatened, contact somebody, talk to somebody. In both of the previous tragedies that we had, there was known information, and so what we need to do is to do a better job of assessment and management and figuring and how to communicate better, so that the entire university community knows about these threats. Once it goes from a referral into TAMP, there's been a lot made about civil liberties and privacy, and I think everyone would agree we respect that. But as we compile knowledge and as we determine that the threat is escalating, then there has to be in the training that has been updated on FERPA and privacy, there are health and safety exceptions to those policies. And so I would encourage everyone to go to the website and look at those exceptions. But we've got to do a better job of communicating out these threats to the wider community so that we can all be mobilized together to be prepared. The goal here is to prevent any kind of future tragedy like this. But if we can't prevent it, to be prepared to respond to it. But I think that, 99% of these things should be able to be intercepted and prevented before they ever happen. And that's gonna be, Steve can comment on this, but using monitoring of social media, contacting all the multiple agencies in the area so everyone knows that there's a threat, making it known and talking about it amongst our entire university community. Those are the things that we're gonna have to do together if we're going to be successful in preventing these tragedies. Steve, I don't know if you got anything else.
Yes. First, I think we all have to realize this is not just a University of Arizona problem. This is the nation is going through this right now. Based off of the experiences I've had for the last almost 25 years, this is something where we have to look at, we have to engage. It's not a law enforcement problem. It is something that we need to address in total. If we have threats, are there areas where we can look at, where we can engage? Dr. Robbins says the family, mental health professionals. The law, are there ways that we can maybe look at strengthening some of the laws? I mean, these are all things that we need to work on. This university should and is a safe haven, and we need to do a better job of making sure that everybody knows what to do should something happen, but at the same time, behind the scenes, work to try to minimize some of these risks that we have out there. But I want everybody to know this is not something that's necessarily singular to the University of Arizona. This is a problem the city of Tucson is dealing with, state of Arizona is dealing with, the United States is dealing with. We just need to make sure that we are proactive in trying to identifying a potential issue and then looking to mitigate it. Rich?
John, I want to just add, sorry, Rich, that, there have been other campuses. I've mentioned Michigan State a couple of times here. Soon after the shooting in October, I had a chance to spend a couple of days with the president of Virginia Tech and to be able to understand all the things that they've learned over the years since their tragedy that killed over 30 individuals on their campus. And so I asked him, could we send a team of our faculty, staff, students to Virginia Tech to spend time with them, to learn what they do. Other campuses, we're sharing better practices across multiple institutions, but not just universities, with K-12 school districts, with corporations. I mean, this is permeated into every part of our society, and there are clearly things that we can learn that will help us to strengthen the safety of our community.
Just to add on to what both President Robbins and Steve has said, one of the best tools we have to prevent these tragic occurrences is all of you, our students, our staff, and our faculty. You are the source of the best intelligence defined as actionable information. In other words, things we can act on. What you hear and what you see, you need to report. You need to be able to get that information to Steve so it can be investigated right away. If you look at the federal reports from Secret Service as well as FBI over the years, what you often see is after action reports that say, gee, we really had all this information, but nobody knew about it, that there was a despondent student. There was somebody that was acting in a strange way. Behaviors had changed. And people notice it, but they kind of moved them to a different location or they just ignored it for a while. We can't afford to do that anymore. The best source of intelligence is all of you as boots on the ground or in the classrooms, in the hallways, hearing and seeing what goes on. If you think about it, if you hear it, if you see it, mention it to Steve's team so that they can look at it right away. And of course, then be able to prevent what could become a tragedy. But even more importantly, get that person some help if they're struggling every single day with mental health challenges.
All right, thank you. The next question comes from Craig Smith at KGUN 9.
Are you all considering going as far as to have physical drills on the campus, and who would that involve? Faculty, and students, and so on.
Yeah, I'll turn to Steve, but I can remember only one large-scale drill that we've had here in the last 6 years. It was a staged active shooter on the mall involving Old Main, the student union, and it was effective, but it was done at night. I think that I've talked to Steve. We need to practice these things. I learned that we're not across the board even doing fire drills in all the departments and the units. So I think we need to not only watch the videos, learn, have this be part of faculty meetings, unit meetings. It's going to be part of the syllabus and many of the curriculum and many of the courses in the curriculum coming in the fall. And so many of these students coming into our university have gone through this for years and years and years. Rich mentioned Columbine. I mean, I think that in our K-12 schools, they do a good job of doing drills. and we have not done as well with that. So, Steve, maybe describe starting smaller, but then my idea is to have an absolute university-wide drill in the fall that would be while classes are going on in real life. How would we respond to this? Rich and I have been through all of these trauma drills, and I think I wasn't here, but Rich and other people were around. I think there was a plane crash near campus one time just south of 6th Street. I mean, what if a plane crashed in one of our buildings right now? What is the plan? How would we respond? So, Steve, maybe talk about the active shooter drills that you're anticipating with, multiple agencies from around the area.
Yeah, we're currently meeting with an outside company that does this and creates different scenarios. President Robbins, Craig, you talk about having different training exercises. What we're looking to do is, as soon as we can, have an initial small tabletop exercise and then build it from there. Obviously, with the ultimate goal of engaging our partners within the Tucson community, federal partners, city, state, and it doesn't. President Robbins mentioned it doesn't necessarily have to be an active shooter situation. It could be anything. We have to be better prepared. Your question's a great one, and we are working towards doing that, while at the same time not inhibiting the folks from doing the learning that they need to do. But we also need to make sure that people know what to do should something happen.
Craig, you'll remember, you've been in town long enough, that our emergency medical system for probably over 35 years now has routinely had these, what we used to call disaster drills. And really, they are a demonstration of how we respond to all hazards threats. Any hazard that can affect the health, safety, or security of a community, the state, the nation, or the world is considered all hazard. So active shooter is within that. But what happens if there's a fire on campus? What about a plane crash, as Steve said? What is the organizational structure that comes together to address those issues? Should we have been able to prevent it? But we always need to be ready to respond. So those are the things that Steve will be doing, again, starting with a tabletop where we actually just do the discussion, and then it blossoms into something bigger where the whole community gets involved. But we have a history here in the community, including the University of Arizona, in being involved in those community events for all hazards preparedness. And this is another step. The issue of active shooter has become much more in the forefront of everybody because of what's happening, as Steve said, nationally. But the infrastructure to respond to that is the same as the infrastructure that responds to any and all threats in our community. That's the beauty. They're already there. We don't have to develop a new system. We just have to test that system to make sure it's optimized all the time.
And I would say, Craig, finally, that professors I've talked to, students I've talked to, staff, they just want to know what the plan should be. And while every case would be different, I would refer people back to the active shooter drills, videos. But we've got to watch the videos, but then we've got to have every unit, every department practice this over and over and over. So if a professor has a class of 100 students and there's an alert that there's an active shooter, do they evacuate as quickly as possible? Do they lock the classroom and shelter? And so every scenario will be different, but we have to watch the videos. I think there are 3 different scenarios in the video, but we've got to practice over and over. And I know, Steve, UAPD has been out to over 50 requests for training. And I think that's exactly what we need to do. Every unit, every department that you come to work with your colleagues every day and your students in your classroom, we need to practice this.
Yeah, and I would add, President Robbins just hit on it. The community engagement group with the University of Arizona Police Department is doing great work, going out, meeting with faculty, staff, students, going over not only active shooter, but security awareness conversations. And I encourage everyone to reach out to UAPD's Community Engagement Unit. These folks, as Dr. Robbins said, have done over 50 of these. Hopefully, 6 months from now, we're up 150, 250, whatever it takes to get as many people to know exactly what to do.
All right, our next question comes from Paulo Rodriguez, Arizona Public Media. Was a U alert sent to the UA community during the law school incident? Why or why not?
I do not believe there was a U alert statement sent, but Steve, you're closer to this than me.
No, there was not a UA alert statement. The law school initially sent out an email once it was determined that they were going to close the school down, not have any classes for that day. That was sent out a few hours relatively earlier in the morning, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and then the follow-up email notifications followed. It was really focused on the law school. It was not something that necessarily affected any other folks. And again, there is no threat. So we certainly can look at other opportunities to push out information on UA Alert. And UA Alert is currently being updated now. And that's what we plan to do is to do some additional notifications through UA Alert. But in this particular case, we didn't deem it to be appropriate.
And I think that as I understand my discussions with Dean Miller, and Steve, you were involved pretty early in this, there was, out of an abundance of caution, classes were canceled. I think it was on a Monday afternoon. And then the decision was made just to go online for the next couple of days while the threat assessment was being evaluated real time. And ultimately, it was that there was no threat, and that's why there was no U alert or any campus-wide message sent out. I do think, though, going back to my earlier statement about people want to know, and it's better to have ICS. I think ICS is interviewing currently for a PIO, a public information officer. This is going to really help us to be able to communicate early and often, as we did in the pandemic, about any of these evolving situations. And it's one of those things where it says, we know there's a situation at the law school. We're aware of it. We're assessing it, and we'll keep you updated as things progress.
All right, our next question comes from Lupita Murillo from KVOA. Their question is, earlier this week, there was abortion protests. Where do y'all stand between free speech and hate speech, and where is the line drawn, and who makes that decision?
Yeah, I think this is something that's come up over and over and over, and we've got experts that monitor these situations. First Amendment free speech experts that are involved in the there's a permitting process that goes through the university and a committee that looks at the applications to have some sort of either event or a booth or something like that. In this case, it was incredibly graphic pictures, and so it's fairly clear about that as a public university that First Amendment free speech rights, we all support that. The question about when does it move over into hate speech is one that as our First Amendment and free speech people are on the ground evaluating the situation real time, they make those determinations. Also, the content of, although the drawing of analogies of graphic details from the Holocaust and equating those to abortion. Those things still, as I understand from talking to constitutional scholars and First Amendment experts, are still in the area of free speech. And so we consult constantly with experts in the area to decide when it crosses the line.
All right, next question will come directly from Bud Foster at KOLD.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick question here. Having a system of awareness and communication is certainly very important, but how do you do this without creating an atmosphere of fear on campus as well? You want the people to live normal lives and do those kinds of things without living in fear. Has this become, or has this been a topic of discussion? And if not, will it be going forward?
Yeah, I think, Bud, that's something, again, we try to balance. We don't want to cause fear when, and I think the recent law school case was one that was a good case study for us, as we don't want to alert people unnecessarily, but at the same time, we're in a very, very heightened state of awareness. As has been mentioned before, not just our campus, anywhere in this country that you go, you've always got to be aware, and people are very anxious. So I think, again, erring on the side of over communication and doing it frequently and telling as much as we can tell the university community without creating undue fear. And I don't know, Rich and Steve, if you have things to add to that, but it's a balance. But I think in this current environment we're in, where people are hurting, they're afraid, they are scared, they want a plan. They want the leadership and the whole community to come together and work as a team to try to prevent these things from occurring, but to have a plan. And so everyone is desperate for, and they deserve us communicating and letting them know. But it is a fine line not to cause undue fear and angst.
Bobby, it's simply stated, in these kind of crises, the term that we always use is that we want to inform and not inflame. And yesterday, under Steve's leadership, we were interviewing for those PIO positions, and that was probably the most frequently part of our discussions with those candidates was, tell us how you would handle this. How do you inform and not inflame? So that's really what it comes down to. Steve, your comments.
Rich, you hit it right there. We want to make sure that we get out accurate information as soon as we can, while at the same time not adding additional anxiety and angst. But a great question. We're still trying to manage that. But as Dr. Robbins said, we're going to try to err towards the side of providing a little bit more information while not infringing on anybody's privacy and making sure that we're providing accurate information.
We have about 2 minutes left here. We've got one more question to take here from Craig Smith at KGUN. Craig, go ahead.
Actually, I'm just going to tap out and leave you in peace for this one.
Excellent. Well, with that, President Robbins, we send it to you for some closing remarks.
Yeah, well, thanks, everyone. I look forward to continuing to work with everyone in our campus community as partners to unite to make our campus safer. I've not found anyone who doesn't have that shared aspirational goal, and we need healing. We need redemption on this campus, and I look forward to working with everyone to achieve that goal. We'll be coming back in a couple of weeks to continue to update you and work on better ways of communicating and letting you know as we go through We didn't get into any sharing of screen. My least favorite thing on Zoom. May I share my screen? But I think going forward, we'll probably, Steve, I know you've got a big board with all the 33 recommendations and other things that have come from other good ideas that have been sourced. I mean, yesterday, I was with a group of engineers who are experts in mining, and they train all the time about what if a disaster happens down a mine shaft? How do you respond to that? And so we've got incredible expertise in this world-class, truly world-class faculty who are experts in their field. There's a reason why we're one of the top 30 research universities in this country and one of the top in the world. And we need to tap in, listen to, have our faculty help solve this problem of making us safer and moving forward together. So I look forward to continued meetings with groups across campus. My goal is to come to every department faculty member meeting to engage about these issues and other things that we must discuss about going forward together in partnership across the campus. There are many great things that are going on in the University of Arizona, but the primary goal, I've always said, of my job is to make sure that our campus is safe for our faculty, our students, and any visitors who happen to come on our campus. So I look forward again to working with everyone going forward. Thank you for everyone who tuned in today. I talk to Rich frequently. I never thought that many people watch these things during COVID. But I would get people all over the country telling me, I watched you on those things. Thank you very much for keeping us informed as parents living out of state about how you were trying to make the campus safer. And I think that applies certainly in this situation as well. So until next time, thank you all for being here. And Steve and Rich, John, thank you for your participation.
Thank you.